16. Shadows beneath the roots. The night air hung heavy as I stood on the back porch, my arms resting on the cool wooden railing. Beyond the yard, the forest loomed tall, restless silhouettes swaying against the pale glow of the moon. The leaves shimmered faintly red when the light touched them, almost like embers caught in a slow-moving current. The breeze whispered through the branches, but it was too soft, too cautious. It felt like the air itself was waiting for something. Beside me, Ethan sat on the edge of the step, elbows resting on his knees, a steaming mug cradled between his hands. His eyes didn't wander. They were fixed on the same dark line of trees as mine. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The quiet wasn't peaceful, it was expectant. Like we both knew that breaking it would make whatever was watching listen closer. Do you ever feel like the forest is watching? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan didn't glance at me. I do, he said simply. And lately, it feels like it's remembering. The words settled into me like a cold stone in water, rippling through the stillness. I turned toward him, studying the slight furrow between his brows, the way his jaw tightened as if he was bracing himself for something unseen. What do you mean by that? I asked quietly. He shook his head slightly, eyes never leaving the shadows. It's hard to explain. Like there's something old out there. Something that's been here longer than any of us. And it hasn't forgotten. The porch lantern flickered, its light stuttering across the yard. In the distance, a low groan echoed through the trees, a sound too deep to be the wind. My fingers curled around the railing, but the unease that prickled along my arms made me step closer to him. Without thinking, I reached for his hand. He didn't hesitate. His fingers closed around mine, warm and steady. You're not imagining it, I said. There are letters. From my grandmother. From her grandmother before her. They all wrote about the same tree. The same feeling. Like it's alive. Ethan finally turned his head toward me, his expression sharp and certain. Then we need to go back. Another sound rolled through the forest closer now, as if whatever made it had moved toward us. We didn't move, just stood there listening, the night pressing in around us. Chapter 17. The Clearing's Secret. We set out before dawn, the world still wrapped in thick shadows and silence. Our breath puffed in tiny clouds, mixing with the damp chill that clung to the early morning air. Bundled in heavy coats, clutching flashlights that sliced weak beams through the creeping mist. We stepped carefully onto the narrow path behind the old house. The trail had become wild, almost forgotten the weeds and brambles clawing at our legs, the earth soft and uneven beneath our boots. But somehow, without words or hesitation, our feet found the way, as if the forest itself remembered us. The deeper we ventured, the more the landscape shifted around us. The usual greens and browns gave way to something. Surreal leaves glimmering with a strange, metallic sheen, catching the faint light and reflecting it like tiny mirrors. The colors were impossible. Rich crimsons, glowing coppers and deep rusty reds that seemed alive, pulsating softly in the stillness. The air grew thicker too, heavier in a way that made each breath feel like wading through water. Every step felt slower, weightier, as if the forest was both warning us and beckoning us forward. I noticed Ethan's hand brush mine several times, tentative and fleeting, but I didn't respond. Words felt fragile here. Silence was safer, more respectful, like we were trespassing in a sacred space. The forest seemed to listen, holding its breath with us. When we finally arrived, the clearing lay just as it had been the last time, untouched by time or decay. At its center stood the ancient tree, a giant cathedral of nature, its massive trunk split down the middle, but still standing proud and defiant. Scarlet threads thin, delicate, and trembling in the morning breeze hung from its limbs like bloodied lace, whispering secrets only the forest knew. The red seemed almost alive, shimmering with a strange vitality that sent a chill through my veins. I stepped closer, heart pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. Something was waiting here, something I was only beginning to understand. My gaze fell to the base of the tree, where the roots tangled like gnarled fingers gripping the earth. There, half buried in moss and soil, was a small box, old and weathered, its surface cracked and faded with time. A rusty clasp sealed it shut, stubbornly resisting Ethan's fingers as he carefully pried it loose. He handed the box to me, his touch lingering for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Inside, wrapped in brittle paper yellowed with age, were a handful of items, documents, and photographs that made my breath catch. One image stood out, a woman with my eyes, my hair, standing beside a man whose features matched Ethan's perfectly. The photo was dated 1914, a time that should have nothing to do with us. "This isn't possible," I whispered, voice trembling with disbelief. Ethan's eyes were wide, haunted. "But it's us," he breathed back, as if the words themselves were a revelation and a curse. "Ray, this has happened before. We're caught in something that reaches across time." The wind shifted suddenly, rushing through the clearing with a fierce roar, carrying an almost human breath. The ground beneath our feet groaned low and deep, vibrating with ancient energy. The branches above us writhed as if alive, shaking violently like the tree itself was trying to shake something free. Then it came, a voice, carried on the wind but not loud, more like a breath or a whisper from the past. Words fragmented but urgent, threading through the rustling leaves and striking my core. "You must finish what they could not." Ethan grabbed my hand, his grip tight and grounding, pulling me back just as a massive branch cracked loose from the tree's great limbs. It slammed down where I had just stood moments before, sending a shower of dust, bark, and shattered wood splinters flying into the thick air. Without looking back, we ran, the forest howling around us like a living thing unleashed. The eerie, metallic leaves shimmered in the fading, light as the path twisted and turned beneath our feet. But we didn't slow. The voice echoed faintly behind us, a reminder that the past was never truly gone, and that our journey was far from over. Chapter 18. Roots and Repetition. Back at the house, the dim morning light filtered through the curtains, casting pale patterns on the worn wooden floor. We carefully laid out the box's contents in a rough circle between us, as if creating a shrine to the past. Each item felt sacred, fragile. Letters written in flowing, looping cursive, their ink faded but still legible. Maps of the forest with strange symbols and runes scrawled in margins, marking places we hadn't seen, but somehow instinctively recognized. Pressed flowers, brittle to the touch yet startlingly vivid in their color, ghosts of blooms long dead, preserved like memories trapped in time. I reached for one of the letters, feeling the grain of the paper beneath my fingertips, the weight of words penned by a hand from another era. The handwriting was elegant, a careful artistry I envied. As I read, the sentences seemed to ripple with emotion, love, fear, desperation. They spoke of a promise broken, a secret kept hidden beneath layers of silence. Ethan sat cross-legged opposite me, holding one of the photographs reverently. His finger traced the delicate features of the woman who looked like me, her eyes filled with a sadness that transcended time. "My great-grandfather used to talk about a woman he loved," he said softly, voice thick with a mixture of disbelief and wonder. "He said she disappeared in these woods. No one believed him, thought the war had broken him, that he was chasing ghosts. But what if he wasn't wrong? What if it really was her?" I swallowed hard, the weight of the revelation sinking deeper. And what if she was me? The words hung in the air between us, fragile and electrifying. The silence that followed was heavy, like the quiet before a storm. It settled over the room like a dense fog, wrapping around us and refusing to lift. We were no longer just two people tangled in coincidence. We were part of something older, something vast and aching. A cycle that had spun out of control and refused to stop. Unfinished stories whispered through generations. Broken vows woven into the roots of the forest. Threads fraying but still connected. Ethan looked up, eyes shining with resolve. Then this isn't just about us. It never was. We're echoes, fragments of a story that's been replaying itself for over a century. We're caught in the loop, and we have to find a way to break it. I turned toward the window, my gaze lost in the dense line of trees beyond the glass. I remembered the way the forest had whispered my name, how the wind seemed to curl protectively around Ethan, as if it recognized him. The sensation was haunting and tender all at once. Like the earth itself was reaching out, trying to bridge the distance between past and present. In that moment, I understood something profound. All those times I'd felt restless, like I was waiting for something I couldn't name now. I knew why. I had been waiting for this moment, for this purpose, for this truth. It wasn't just fate. It was the unraveling of a promise made long ago, one that demanded completion. I met Ethan's gaze again. "We have to be careful," I said quietly. "Whatever this is, it's bigger than us. But now, we know. And that means we can fight it." He nodded, determination hardening his features. "Together." And with that, a fragile hope blossomed rooted deep in the past, but reaching toward a future we would write ourselves. Chapter 19. Fire in the leaves. That night, the dreams returned more vivid, more urgent. But this time, they weren't memories slipping through the cracks of my mind. No, these were warnings carved into my sleep with the harshness of fire. In the dark, I saw the town ablaze, flames licking hungrily at wooden rooftops and twisting through the streets like living serpents. The sky was a molten swirl of red and orange, leaves falling like ash in slow motion, blackening before they touched the earth. And through the choking smoke, Ethan's voice cut clear, raw and desperate. He screamed my name over and over, a lifeline tossed through the inferno. Then my vision shifted, pulling me deeper into the forest. Something moved there, tall and thin, a figure made of bark and shadow. It shifted with the trees, breathing with the wind. Its eyes glowed faintly, unblinking, watching. I jolted awake, gasping for breath, heart hammering against my ribs like a frantic drum. Cold sweat slicked my skin. Ethan was beside me, sitting upright, his face pale and strained as he clutched his head. "I saw it too," he whispered, voice raw in the dark. Before we could say another word, a sharp, acrid smell slithered into the room smoke. It burned in our nostrils, thick and choking. We stumbled outside, where the night was suddenly alive with chaos. One of the neighbors' sheds was engulfed in flames, the fire snapping and roaring as it clawed at the wood. Bright orange tongues licked hungrily toward the sky, casting flickering shadows across the yards. Sparks floated upward like rebellious fireflies, drifting silently toward the edge of the forest's dark line. "That's not natural," Ethan muttered, eyes narrowed as he scanned the tree line. "It's a warning." The air vibrated with tension, the forest standing eerily still as the firelight danced on its edges. We grabbed anything we could find: hoses, buckets, shovels, and joined the growing crowd of neighbors rushing to fight the blaze. Panic and confusion spread like wildfire through the group, faces pale and voices sharp with fear. As I poured water onto the flames, my gaze snapped to the forest's edge once again. There, framed in the fiery glow, stood the figure from my dream tour, impossibly thin. as if carved from the very bark of the trees themselves. It didn't move, didn't blink. It simply watched, unmoving and silent. Ethan caught sight of it too. His eyes widened, disbelief and fear flickering across his face. Without hesitation, he dropped the hose and sprinted toward the shadowed figure. "Ethan, no!" I shouted, panic choking my voice. But he didn't stop. His feet pounded the earth, cutting a path through the gathering crowd. The fire crackled behind us, the heat growing fierce, and still, the figure waited. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Chapter 20. The Breaking Point. I lunged after him, every pulse pounding in my ears, my heart hammering like a wild drum in my chest. The forest swallowed us immediately. A comforting glow of the fire behind shrinking fast, fading like a dying star struggling to hold its last breath. I screamed his name, desperation raw in my voice. But the trees closed in tighter, growing taller, their trunks looming like ancient sentinels bent on swallowing me whole. The path I'd known twisted and narrowed, as if the forest itself was shifting to trap us. Then my foot caught on something unseen: roots, rocks, a cruel trap hidden beneath a veil of fallen leaves. I crashed to the ground with a harsh thud, sharp pain lancing through my ankle, hot and raw. I bit back a cry, struggling to steady my breath, panic rising like a tide. Suddenly a crack, the unmistakable snap of breaking branches echoed through the dense woods. Something was coming, fast, closer, too close. Scrambling back, I clawed at the rough bark of a tree, nails digging in as my breath came ragged and uneven. Heart racing, lungs burning, I spun around, eyes wild with fear. And then Ethan appeared. His face was ghostly pale, eyes wide and wild, filled with something I hadn't seen before: fear. Yes, but also fierce determination. "It's not just the forest," he gasped, voice sharp and urgent. "There's something in it, something ancient. It reminds us." Without hesitation, he swept me into his arms, the sudden warmth of him grounding and fierce. "You're hurt," he said, voice breaking slightly. "I'm fine," I lied, but the sting in my ankle reminded me otherwise. "No, you're not. And I'm not losing you again." His grip tightened, his tone deadly serious. He carried me through the forest, his footsteps steady and urgent as the shadows lengthened around us. I rested my head against his chest, feeling the relentless thump of his heart beneath my ear, strong, steady, alive. It was louder than any sound lurking in the darkness behind us, louder than the crackling fire or the whispering trees. Every breath I took was tethered to him. When we finally burst into the clearing near the house, the night fell eerily still. The wind stopped as if the forest itself was holding its breath. And in the distance, framed by the skeletal limbs of the ancient trees, the tall figure waited, still, silent, watching, waiting.